And welcome to another show of Don't Get This Twisted. I am Rob, along with my co-host, as always, Tina. How are you doing, Tina?
I'm good, Rob. I'm a little sunburnt, but other than that, I'm all right.
Ooh, not too shabby. I'm better than I was last week because I'm not chasing my dog around in the room.
Well, that's a good thing. I mean,
I showed you a little video of him. He's got a little, like, I don't know, rawhide treat. He is going to work, but it's not rawhide. It's pigskin. He's so happy right now. He's ignoring me. He's got his butt to me.
That's right.
Yeah, so super awesome. Besides that, everything's good. We'll go over some things later on about our show and more people who have listened to us. We'll thank a few. But today you came up with a brilliant idea, and I'm going to actually look at the text message just because I think it's how you formatted it was actually perfect. It says music and how songs bring emotions and memories from different times in our life. And then you put our lives, which I thought was really good too, because you wanted to make sure that you pluralized that. I thought it was awesome. I was like, after you wrote it, I was like, I got it. And then afterwards I was like, yeah, but it's Tina. And she had to make sure that she fixed her fucking grammar. I was like, figures. I was like, yeah,
Sorry.
just got to make sure.
just got to make sure you know where I'm really at.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, I got it. But sure.
You know, even when at my very best, people will take something I said wrong or take it out of context or it isn't delivered correctly. And for some reason that bothers me. So I always make sure that I say exactly what I mean because I don't want it misconstrued and I don't want a drama problem either later. Right. You know, I'm pretty technical and that was never me per se when I was younger, but living with my ex, he was very particular about words and how they were used and that they were used correctly. So yeah. Thanks for that.
No problem. So I could let you kind of explain this or we can explain it together or whatever. But obviously the gist of it is that music, and I think probably between me and you for sure, like has a really big influence. I'm always listening to something. And
yeah, both of us are. Yeah,
it's kind of a staple. I love music and I love all kinds of music. So you know, we kind of talked about that in our guilty pleasures. You know, I like musicals, which is kind of its own special thing since I listen to like a lot of like crazy metal.
Yes.
But I like the idea that it sparks memories.
It does. I was listening to, I know I wasn't. I came home and my brother was with his friends and they were in my dad's backyard, you know, hanging out by the pool, which is something that we do all summer long is use my dad's pool. And he was playing some oldies and there was a particular oldie on that reminded me of my mom. She used to really like, she used to like the OJs and she liked the Commodores and it seemed like one song after another just reminded me of different things that she had done. Like she would dance in the kitchen with us or when we would go to weddings, the four of us, my dad, my mom, my brother, myself, we would dance together. We didn't give a crap if anybody else was around. We liked to dance together. And so certain songs just, you can't help but go back to that particular place and time and feel what you were feeling. Because for me, if something like grabs my emotions, that's what I remember it. I don't remember a lot of stuff, but it's like it didn't stir a feeling inside of me to make me remember. And I realized through doing that my feelings and emotions were very much tied to the music that was on there. It helps, like, just like smells will make a memory better for me. Music definitely makes a memory better because it locks it in it's more personal, just locks it in better than what it could have if music wasn't playing.
For sure. And I think that it becomes cathartic on top of that. Mostly if it's a memory about someone very special in your life, you whether they're here or not, but obviously for someone who's not with us anymore, it's a very cathartic thing to be able to sit back and kind of remember, this was a great time with this person.
Not even people that aren't here, but I mean, like, I was thinking, because I came up with this idea, then I had to have something to talk about. So I was thinking about what songs carry that emotion or make me think of things. And my very first real boyfriend sang "Endless Love" to me in the car as we were parked in front of his house. And to this day, like, if that song plays or I hear it, it takes me back to that exact place at the exact time. I remember the smell of his cologne even. Like, I remember everything about that. And
right.
And all these years later, 30 plus years later, here I am having the same memories that I've had for all this time with that one particular song.
Every time I hear that, I think of Happy Gilmore in the ice skating scene when he gets the girl to go ice skating and he thinks she can't skate and they play Endless Love. And I just think that's kind of funny. So there's, again, even that kind of thing where you hear a song and it reminds you of a movie or a time. So I kind of have a similar thing too, where "Don't Go Breaking My Heart" by Elton John and Kiki D.
Yeah.
When I hear that song, it takes me back to driving with my mom and dad to Redondo Beach when I was like 6 or 7 years old, because we had a 71 Nova that had no car seats or any of that shit. And my dad had to pay for seat belts because they didn't come with the car automatically.
Right. I remember those days.
So, and I just remember that song driving to Redondo Beach. It's just, every time I hear it, I think of that. So it's interesting how we block certain things out of our memories over lifetime, but there's things like that are staples that are stuck in our head.
Yeah. I remember the first time, I don't know, I was probably like 5, maybe 6. We had just moved into our house, like our first major family house that we had. And I remember coming off the 118 freeway and She's a Bitch Girl by Hall & Oates came on. And I was like 5 years old and I was like, hell yeah, I could sing a curse word.
Yeah, it's true.
Every time I hear that song, I think, wow, that was the first song that let me cuss. I don't know why that's the thought, but it did stick with me.
No, but it does make sense. You know what I mean? Like those are moments in your life where you get to say the song or say the word, and like, you can look at your parents and be like,
is it okay?
I'm not going to get in trouble. Hey,
yes.
Super cool. Like, I'm going to continue singing this song every time it comes on.
My mom told me later that she liked how I yelled the song out because I sang it loud because I could cuss.
Yeah, because you could get away with it.
Yeah, and she knew that I was doing it because I could cuss, but she just thought it was funny.
Right. I mean, look, and I think, like we talked about it right before we went on, like there's so many songs that are flashpoints and moments in our life that you'll never forget. You know what I mean? Like whether it's, like you said, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a time in your life where I'll have to look up the name of the song is Living Years. Let me see who
that's I could hear this song in my head.
Yeah, and it's in the Mike and the Mechanics. So I heard that song on the way to my uncle's funeral.
Oh.
And it was one of those things where I think that it was a kind of a smack in the face of make sure you tell all your friends and family how you feel about them, because you just never know. And my uncle had got sick. But when he went to the hospital, I never saw him again. He ended up having hepatitis and a couple other things. And by the end, he didn't even know who my dad and his older brother were. So I'm kind of glad I didn't go see him, because in my head, he's still who he was. But so it's one of those things, like, again, it's a memory that's not the greatest, but it was a learning thing. Every time I hear that song, I think of my uncle, but I also think, hey, make sure that you talk to your friends and family, because you just never know when they might not be around anymore.
Yeah. Boy, are we getting a lesson in that these days. I've been getting a lesson of that. But I think it's a lesson that I've learned, because I really do put time into people. I don't like to be too far away from anybody that I love, whether that be like a bunch of phone calls because we live in different states, or let's get together for lunch on a Wednesday, when I got 3 hours in between clients, because I really do try to make time to do that, because it's always been like a theme in my life that time is so fleeting. And it happens. It
is.
It happens in a blink.
Right.
Yeah.
No, and you never know. Like, go to sleep and people are gone.
Exactly. So. I had some other memories that I wrote down, and a couple of them are like, if you know me, they're kind of funny. But I remember when my grandmother passed away, we took care of my grandparents until they passed. They were with the family, and I was very proud of my family for sticking together and going through that. But when my dad's mother passed away, we were going to do a reception because there were so many people that were going to go to the funeral. We decided to do the reception at a park. So I didn't dress up for my grandmother's funeral. I wore a peach blouse with flowers printed on it and a pair of jeans and a pair of tennis shoes, because it was in the middle of the summer and we were going to be at the park. And I walked in and people gave me dirty looks because I wasn't dressed up. Like, my two best friends, one looked like she was going to a business meeting. The other one looked like she was going to a wedding. And here I am in jeans and a t-shirt. And I was running late. So, of course, you hear that in a church. And then I went and stood on the side because I didn't want to interrupt anybody and try to sit down. And my phone started going off as loud as it could, and the song that was my ringtone was "Push It" by Salt and Pepper.
Oh man.
And a lot of people to this day, because she's had to have been gone like 14 years or something like that, like they still will remind me, or if that song comes on, they'll say, "Dad, I remember your grandmother's funeral." I'm like, please don't ever remember that. But again, if you know me, that is funny, because that is a song I would play as one of my ringtones, and I liked it a lot, and I am kind of bold, and I don't really care. And yeah, there it was, all set up for everybody to view.
Yeah, and you couldn't ask, and again, like you look back on things like that and you're like, oh man. But again, it's whether it was a good time or a bad time, you're looking back and being like, holy moly, like these songs are now remind you of other things, not just a time in our life, but another time in our life.
I used to, this particular grandmother used to slap me in the back of the head for like dancing at the table. I thought I told you to quit dancing at the table. I couldn't help it. I get happy when food's around and I dance. And so, the push it song went with exactly the theme of my grandmother and my life at a dinner table. So it was pretty funny. I didn't get too embarrassed because I don't get embarrassed very easily, for one, and two, because my grandmother would not be surprised if she was sitting there in that house.
Right. And I think that those are the other things you kind of look at and you look back on and you're like, yeah, grandma might have been all right with that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, or if not okay, at least there would have been something being said to you not too long afterwards.
Yeah. And there's other songs too, like for some reason when I think of my daughter, I think of the song Landslide by oh my gosh, Fleetwood Mac. We used to love that song, and every time we would listen to it, we both seemed like we went to a different place. Like we kind of got the words and understood like where, the song was coming from, and it meant something to us. I don't know if she still listens to that song. I have no freaking idea, but it does remind me of her when I hear that.
I'm sure if it comes up, there's something,
Yeah, it
there's
is
always
what it
something.
is.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, there's something, those are things like that don't go away. They just don't. Like you end up with some kind of memory, and hopefully it's a good memory either way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. So
that's true. Or like, I remember the first time I got a private lap dance, it was to Lovin', Touchin', Squeezin' by Journey. I don't know why that song, but it kind of worked for what we were doing. And every time I hear that song, I think about how he jumped up above he was like right in my face on furniture you shouldn't have been standing on and doing a lap dance. I had a good time that day. I'll just leave it at that. But the song, every time I hear it, it makes me giggle. Like I can't help myself. So that was.
So for me, I'm trying to kind of think of like the way to kind of say, to me, like there's a lot of songs, lots of songs. There's lots of songs for lots of people. Mm-hmm. Like there's certain songs I hear and they always will remind me of a certain person I've been with. Mm-hmm. Just because either, because we go back to when you were giving mixed tapes.
Oh yeah.
To people and mm-hmm. Like for real tapes, mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, so when people, when they talk about rappers putting out mixtapes, I kind of giggle now. I'm like, no, they don't put out tapes. They're putting out, they're putting out mixed music that might not be the same as their regular albums, but they're not putting out mixtapes. Mm-hmm. But, so like for me, I think back as like stuff like that. One of my early girlfriends, I got a.
Do I know said early girlfriend?
Of her. This was in 11th grade. She went to the rival school. She was my friend from New York.
Okay.
That I dated and then ended up going back to New York to visit her. But do you remember? I want to say it was Midnight. Was it Midnight Star, the name of the group?
Mm-hmm. There's a group called Midnight Star.
Yeah. Here you go. The one, they had like a huge hit. I got to think about what it is, and I'm trying to find it on the interwebs. And if you can believe this, my dog ate that whole thing.
I do believe that. Yeah,
he's going crazy right now. He's walking around here we go. Top songs. Oh man, where is it? Anyway, it's a song by them. I just have to find out what it is. But it was a love song, obviously. Those are but you look at it back on that, and then you look up songs by them, and you're like, man, they did Freakazoid. Look at that. I never. I was like, Midnight Star.
Really?
That's what it says. That's what the interwebs say. But we all know how that is. Let's see. Let's go here, and here we go. Because I know I have it somewhere in my.
So what songs remind you of like high school?
See, there's a lot for me because I listen to so many different kinds of music.
There are a
lot of metal, like we were talking before, like "Welcome to the Jungle" by Guns N' Roses. Even though I think that was after high school, I think that was 91. But a lot of like Iron Maiden stuff, Judas Priest. Only because that was like some of the music that I was into at the time.
Yeah, it was.
So
you and your long hair.
Yeah, or trying to have long hair then.
Trying to have it, yeah.
Yeah, I was still growing. I didn't really do that until a little bit. No, that came out in 87. So that was high school. And then I think of a lot of songs that are like that were like new wave songs, obviously, that were kind of at the end of that new wave, because the British new wave was more of like our junior high years.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember that kind of stuff. And then a lot of like that quad music that was just DJ, because hip hop was just starting to like form mainstream hip hop, Beastie Boys, Run DMC, that kind of stuff. So I remember those, quite, that were big. And then of course, while we were in school, I want to say NWA, like Dope Man, I think came out in like 88, something like that. So, things like that, just where you're like, oh yeah, because a lot of that stuff, I think kind of, it mashes together. I just don't remember what year. So NWA, that came out in 1988.
Okay.
So like those
we
are
were
kind
definitely
of
listening to that at the time.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I remember, matter of fact, I remember I was in a classroom, in those far classrooms that were like by the shop classes that they turned into regular classes. But it was like they weren't
the S buildings.
Yeah, exactly. The S buildings. So, and I remember hearing that on someone's Walkman.
Oh, Jesus.
I remember hearing that for the first time going, whoa, because like, they really hadn't started getting crazy with the PMRC and Tipper Gore and all that, trying to put warning labels on records yet. And, once they did that, they made millionaires out of people.
Yeah, they did.
I remember hearing an interview with Nikki Sixx from Motley Crue, and he goes, the best thing that they ever did was put warning stickers on records, because he goes, we might have sold one copy of that to somebody. We ended up selling hundreds of copies. So they were selling, every record was going gold. Mm-hmm. Because they made sure they wrote songs that had bad language in it, so they could get the sticker on it. I was like, talk about going backwards. Like, pretty funny. Like, I look at stuff like that. So I'm sure you have several, because you were into a lot of dance music, and I'm sure I'll remember some of the stuff that you're talking about.
Oh yeah. I remember my brother playing the Two Live Crew cassette in his bedroom, and my dad would fucking lose his shit.
You think?
He would say, Daddy, turn that shit off. And we would laugh so hard, because it was funny, because he would walk down the hall singing it. He would walk through school singing it. Like, he couldn't get enough of everything they were saying. He even had videos and things that, oh my God, their videos were horrible. They were playing in Japan, and one of the guys from Two Live Crew takes his dick out. This girl's sucking it while they're performing on stage in Japan. And I was like, what the hell? Like, even I was like, oh man, if Mom and Dad see this, you're screwed. But he showed them. My mom was like, oh, my dad just walked away like he normally did. My brother didn't get in trouble. But I remember like him specifically singing the songs, dancing certain ways. Like, to this day, I'm like, please get up and dance to this song with me.
I remember hearing the "Hey, we want some pussy" song always outside school. Somebody at the end of day, when we were getting out of school, would be bumping the shit out of that. And at that point, like, I know that they put decent systems in cars now, but not like when we were kids. Like, you could hear cars from blocks away that were just rattling the floor.
My friend had a white Cadillac, and he was a DJ, and he stuck two big DJ speakers in the back of his car, gave me the keys and said, okay, right, before school's going to let out, just turn the music up and take a couple laps around the school so I know you're here. And he said it rattled the buildings, because I just let it rip. But I always liked that feeling of the bass. Like, when I would go dancing, put me right next to the speaker, because I want to feel the power of the bass always. I don't know. I still, to this day, it kind of pumps me up.
Oh,
But yeah.
and just so you know, I'm going to give you it wasn't Midnight Star. It was Atlantic Star. They had a song called Always.
Oh yeah. That was there were people that would sing that on the quad at lunch and just every day.
That was a love song right there. That was one that I, when I hear that song, I think of that girl I dated from New York. It was such it was a big song at the time, but it had some pretty meaningful lyrics. So
yeah,
it was kind of one of those ones, like even to this day, it's like, oh yeah, it's the first person I think of every single time. So it's like funny that, like you said, or not funny, but definitely, it's something that's embedded in your head.
Yes.
So
when I'm with my closest friends and music comes on, say from, oh crap, I'm drawing a blank. Oh fuck, I hate that feeling.
Me too.
I have it in my head. Well,
that shit happens to me all the time.
Music from like
Boyz II Men, Babyface,
like all that sort of stuff. Like when I hear a song from that particular generation, I'll ask one of my friends, do you see his face? And she's like, would you stop? Because they do. Like certain songs from back in that day will remind me of a boyfriend every single time. Single time. And not just the same boyfriends, because it's not like we stayed with anybody for any particularly long period of time.
Right.
But certain songs will remind me of certain people. Like I can't hear Poison by Belle Biv DeVoe. Mm-hmm. Was it Belle Biv DeVoe?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I cannot hear that song without thinking about my friend from El Paso. We used to go dancing three nights a week, 4 nights a week, depending on where we were and what we were doing. And if that song came on, we were on the dance floor, and we were normally doing the same dance. Because at that time it was like the electric slide or, one of the more line dancier sort of songs. And oh man, I remember so many times dancing to that song with him in particular. It went on for years. So I can't hear that song without seeing him.
Right. No, I kind of agree too, because like mostly for that time period, it was like, Belle Biv DeVoe, obviously before that New Edition, since they were all the same band. You look at all those R&B guys, and then later on where you got like Boyz II Men and all that 80s and 90s R&B / boy band, songs. They were for one, they were catchy as shit. Like they just had the catchiest songs, catchy hooks, which, even now, like you look at songs now and they took that blueprint, you know what I mean? Like there's the same blueprint that they've been doing since the 50s when you're talking about the OJs and, that. And then you look at like the Commodores where they were still, the footprint has always been there. It's that they either ramp it up or bring it back to that same kind of sound. So it's kind of interesting. And I think that now you're looking like when I don't know. I don't listen to radio at all. So I don't know how people hear new music. I'm assuming still on a radio or a Spotify playlist maybe, or something like that. But like, to me, if you want to find like love songs, like now it's all country stuff, because them country boys and girls, man, they know how to pull heartstrings.
They could tell a story, seriously. But back in the day, like the 80s, the cheesy 80s love songs, they're still a favorite of mine. I'll listen to those. I used to remember listening to Coast 103, and I would fall asleep every night to those songs. And I hear them now, and it's still, I don't know, it's still kind of a really easy breezy place it puts me in, listening to stuff like that. But every song seems to have a person attached to it.
Yeah, I mean, and that could be fortunate or unfortunate.
Well, I get along with everybody, so it's fortunate.
Yeah, I mean, I do my best to get along with everybody. But, the reality is that, mostly and again, I wouldn't even say that it's a bad feeling. It's just it might be more of an empty.
Yes.
You're like, oh yeah. Or like, or what might have been. Mm-hmm. There's always those. I think there's a lot of, mostly when you start getting, into our age period where, there are a lot of might have beens. Like who would have known if you would have just did something differently. So when I hear a song, I think of shit like that, where I'm just like, oh yeah, like this is, matter of fact, there's a song by a country band called Might Have Been. And it's basically, that's the song where just the whole thing is, if I would have just did this differently, what would have happened? And and there's several girls, and the one, I wonder what would have happened if I would have zigged instead of zagged at 18, because who knows? And
I don't, I think you're meant to be where you're meant to be though. And you guys played that out,
No. And again, we got to see each other later on in life and kind of, not squash anything because there was nothing to squash, but it was, we squashed life. We kind of went, hey, this is what happened. This is what happened. This is where I am, blah, 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 blah. So I think that was a very good thing, very cathartic where, got to kind of say, hey, what happened and got to hear things from that. I got to hear, she was more scared than anything. It wasn't, so not that she ran, but definitely, scared or a different view. So when I hear certain songs, I think of her a lot, as well as people that have been in my life recently. There's a lot of songs that I hear that just, punch you in the nuts.
When during my last, during my breakup, I couldn't listen to music for about, 3 months, maybe 4 months. I just couldn't listen to it because everything just kind of felt empty and kind of hurt. And it sucked because I wasn't getting any joy out of music. And that's why I came up with the topic for this podcast, was because how deeply I am moved by music, and the fact that I couldn't hear the music to feel anything. That was kind of a scary time for me. And I realized that a lot of my happy was gone, and I needed to find ways to recreate that and let go of what was, and kind of, find my way back and come up with what's going to be next, So it was very hard at first to go without music. And I didn't realize just how much would remind me of everything that I had in my relationship.
Yeah. It's like for me, so here's the difference with me. I'm a drowner. I'll listen to music to even though I know it's going to bother me or hurt me. I like that because whether it's reminding me of a good time or a bad time, it's still a time, so there's definitely,
I get that too. I was like that when I was younger.
Yeah. So for me, I do that regardless. I still listen to songs about people that I'll probably never talk to again, but those are just, they're, it's just a memory that's always going to be there. So kind of an interesting way of looking at things, I think.
I just say never, because I've noticed in my life people that meant something to me, they always seem to come back around, and whether they're wanted to be or whether you want them to be around or not, they'll make a reappearance, because I believe that souls are put on this earth to be together, and give anything a little bit of time and they always resurface.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. But again, thankfully we have music to remind us of those times, and again, not just romantic times, there's definitely things that remind me of people that have been in my life that are irreplaceable, even though I might not talk to them anymore, because they had such a impact, on your life, or they were there at a time when you really kind of needed them to be there. So, and there's songs that remind, and again, like just certain things or certain types of music, maybe, because a friend of mine, Scott, who passed away, he was into lots of different music. He was older than me, but I would always like play crazy metal for him. And just because I knew it would rattle his cage. He's like, how do you listen to this shit? Because he was into more of like that mid 70s music, you know, even some of the late 60s. So it was kind of funny where and then I would tell him, I go, yeah, but I like the music you listen to. Like, I'm okay with that. I listen to everything. So I like that, you know, that I could rattle his cage with some crazy fucking metal band that was just, you know, like crazy. And
I remember you liking that stuff and just going, oh my God, it's killing me.
Yeah. And it's killed a lot of people. Like a lot of people that I've made listen to that just go, I don't understand. Like, how do you do this? And I'm like, well, you know, it's an acquired taste. And it's one of those things where like I listen to metal or I listen to really, really, really hardcore metal when I want to kind of relax. So
what?
Yeah. It definitely does the opposite for me.
Wow.
Which is kind of which a lot of people don't get. Like, they're just like, I don't understand that. I'm like, no, I get you. And it's not, I don't know. Like for me, it doesn't aggravate me. It doesn't rile me up. So it kind of just goes, yeah. Cause I think when I hear it, whatever I'm thinking aggressively, it just kind of, I let them get the aggression out and I don't, it doesn't do anything to me. So,
okay. I couldn't do that kind of music. That music makes me kind of angry. And it always has. I remember being a teenager and you would play something. I'd be like, how am I going to get through this?
It's look, most people that aren't into that say the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So tell me this. Is there a song that reminds you of your mom?
I would say, I mean, not that like, you know, I would say this reminds me of mom. I wouldn't say that. I just think it's time period songs. A lot of that, you know, late 70s. Because like I said, I remember because my mom and dad got a divorce when I was around 8. So for me, it's more of like those songs of us going to the beach. So it was like that same era, that late 70s music.
Okay.
So when I hear that, I think of mom and dad.
Yeah. What about your son?
My son, I kind of think of lots of different music because he was born in early 2000s. So for me, you know, he listens to metal just like me. He also listens to hip hop. So, like we've been to hip hop shows together. So when I hear certain rappers of today, like it always reminds me of him. And of course, like I took him to see Iron Maiden when he was 6. So he's been seeing metal shows as long as he can remember. Like he remembers going to these shows. And then, you know, because his mom was older than me, she listened to like that mid 70s rock, like Journey and Boston and Queen. So he is into that kind of music. So I think of all those different kinds of music because he has an eclectic taste. I kind of like that. And I kind of told him like, because we were talking about musicals because I took him to see Wicked. And he kind of, you know, he enjoyed it, but he was like, nah, you know, it's cool. And then I kind of told him, I said, listen, you know, these are where you have to think about people in your life later on. Because when a girl says, I want to go see a musical, you don't go, I don't want to go see that shit. You go, okay. And you suck it up, buttercup, and go. So, but I also tried to always get things in his head about music. You know, that the base of music is there's a lot of the same things in all this music, mostly classical. You can listen to Iron Maiden and hear classical. You can you can listen to R&B and you can hear the classical inputs of that because of how things are written. So I like that he has that kind of view on music. Like, he really likes music. He listens to there's a station, it's called Lo-Fi Hip Hop Radio. It's on I think we listen to it on Alexa, or so it's Prime Music or Amazon. But it's a radio station, and it has some lyrics sometimes, but it reminds me of a fusion of jazz and hip hop. So it has like this really mellow. We put it on for the dog when we leave. It's like this mellow tracks, man. It's like super chill. Like, if you're having a bad day and you just want to like chill out, get a drink, sit with one of your friends and just talk, you have this lo-fi hip hop radio on in the background. It's just like, but it has like a nice deep bass line. It's really cool music. Yeah, probably something that if you're tired too, but you can't fall asleep, it's one of those where it's kind of mesmerizing. I love it. It's super cool. So I think of him when I hear this every day now, because I put it on for my dog. And because at first I was putting on classical and he goes, oh, no, put this stuff on. So, but I wouldn't say that there's one song that reminds me of him, but there's a song that when I hear, I'm glad he knows other songs. Like when Bohemian Rhapsody came out, all his friends in school were like, oh man, have you heard this Bohemian Rhapsody song? And there's this band Queen. And my son was like, yeah, dude, I've been listening to Queen since I was fucking 8 years old. He goes, have you ever heard Fat Bottom Girls or Bicycle Ride or, Spread These Wings? And his friends were like, their jaw hit the ground. He's like, they're like, what is that? And he's like, they're Queen songs. It's not just one. So things like that. I'm glad that he knows songs that most people don't because, the family listened to them.
Mm-hmm. That was big in our house when we were raising our daughter, because my husband, being 12 years older than I am, his taste in music was definitely different than mine was. But I realized that because of that, my daughter got a huge variety of music that stuck with her, that she really liked, and she connected with it on several levels, from everything from my hip hop or like we could go back to Live Crew, everything from Two Live Crew to what was his favorite type of music? Like he'd listen to like ELO or ELO's
cool though. But
yeah. Or
I'm sure.
Tull, so she really had a wide variety of music.
And that's cool because like as she gets older and as my son get older, or kids that are kind of like them, they'll be able to talk to anyone about music because they've had all these different influences, even though they still might only listen to hip hop or only listen to metal. They can still talk the talk. And that's kind of what I've always told him, that there are common bonds. Music is a common bond between all of us.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And we all get different feelings from hearing the same song. And that's what I love about music. It's not one dimensional. It's multidimensional. Like you said, you might get angry listening to a metal song, but maybe you need to get angry. And that's what drives you to just be and be like,
I don't got time for that.
No, but what I'm saying is, well, maybe not you, but some people need to hear that and just get that scream out and then be done. Like I can listen to there's like hardcore metal or black metal or screamo or whatever you want to say, where like it's literally just aggressive, angry music. I can't listen to that all day long. I just can't. Yeah. But I can hear one song and be like, okay, that was it. That's what I needed to hear. And literally listen to a country love song the next song. Because I just needed to scream in my car and just be angry at the world for a second and then be like, all right, it's time to get back to, listening to Brett Young, some song that, is literally about, falling in love or not in love. Or so, like there's a song by this guy, Brett Young. He's a country guy. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but he's really good. He's actually a California kid who made it in Nashville.
Okay.
You should look up a song. It's called You Didn't. And it's basically a song, him telling this girl like, hey, I'm not mad at you. I can never hate you. I fell in love and you didn't. It's like, it's a kick in the nuts. It's one of those songs where it definitely makes you think of someone in your life. You're like, I'm not mad at you. I can never be mad at you. I still, because I love you, but I understand that I fell in love and you didn't. And that's just life. And that's what happens sometimes. So it's like one of those songs where like, I hear that song and I think of multiple people.
What is the song again? I need to.
It's called You Didn't. It's by Brett Young. He's a country singer. Look, I would say listen to the acoustic version. I think it's just better because I think it has more feeling. But like something like that, where that song is, I think the best songs are written by, or for everyone, even though it's written by one person for someone. It's multidimensional. Here's another song that you need to write down. It's called Hesitate by Stone Sour. That's another song you need to listen to. So Stone Sour is the second band of the singer for Slipknot. And when you hear this song, you're going to go, there's no way that this is the singer for Slipknot, because it's more of, I would say they're a metal band, but they're more rock. They're a rock band. But this song is literally about, it's very melancholy. It's about him telling this girl, like, you hesitated, so go away. Like, I loved you and I but you hesitated, so now it's time for you to go away. It's very melancholy. It seems like a love song, but it's not. It's kind of a fuck you song.
You Didn't by who? Slipknot?
No. You Didn't is by Brett Young.
Okay.
And then a song called Hesitate, and that's by Stone Sour. I'll send them to you if you can't find them. Yeah. It's a super duper, it's very melancholy and very not what it seems. You'll listen to the lyrics and you're like, oh, this is kind of it seems like a love song, but it's kind of a piss off song. Like, you shit the bed. You had this chance. I loved you. Yeah. Very Amber Heard. But it's very like, look, you had your chance, but now I don't love you anymore, but now you're here. It's very good. And I like that about that. And those are other songs where they're multidimensional. They, one guy writes a song about somebody, but we all have that same feeling at some time in our life. Those are the best songs. Those are the greatest songs because we identify. And if you're identifying, you're reliving something that the writer of the song didn't, but you feel like you both did. I don't know. It's like one of those, that's what I love about music. Those are things that they're so emotional. Or, I have a friend who, there's a song, what's it called? Who's the country guy? She said that every time she would hear this song, she would cry in her car. Like, no matter what. Who sings it? He's one of the judges on one of those shows. He's a country guy. What the heck's his name? It's called Austin, the song Austin. Yeah. But that song's about like this girl, obviously it didn't work out. And, the girl keeps calling the guys, Blake Shelton keeps calling his phone and gets the answering machine. And he's like, hey, I'm out doing this, but if this is Austin, I still love you. And then the last chorus is her calling. She leaves her number and he calls back, and it's sounds like it's an answering machine, if you remember what those are. And it's her saying, hey, this isn't an answering machine, and I screwed up and I still love you. It's like a great tune, but that someone dedicated that to her, a really good friend of mine, actually, that went to high school with us. And she said every time she heard that, she would be in tears in the car. Music is that emotional that it can literally take you to a different place.
Oh yeah.
And I love that about music. And I think that we all have those stories. We have those stories of a song that we'll never forget. Like, we'll be 80 years old, and whatever this song comes on, it'll take you to when you're 19. And I
want it to. I still want to be able to go to that day and time and see that person as I remember them, and live that reality for at least, the 3 or 4 minutes that the song is on. I don't know, I cherish that, because it helps when you can't be with the person, or when you shouldn't be with the person, or you can't be with the person,
When you shouldn't be. I think you just said it best. When you shouldn't be.
Yeah,
for sure.
There's a lot of that.
For sure. Oh, I think there's more of that than there isn't.
But shouldn't, I don't know. Like, I feel like every person that I chose to love, I learned so much from, and continue to, because I still have a lot of those same people come and go through my life and in my life. And I'm so grateful that I've had that opportunity to revisit that. A train wreck is a train wreck, and you shouldn't repeat a train wreck, but I don't know. I kind of like that you could at least live it through the song.
Well, and that's it. I loved what you just said a few seconds ago, that for that 3.5 minutes, you get to relive something.
Yeah.
That may be on a back burner, that you might not hear that song for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden you hear it and you're like, that time period, or that day, or, that hour, like, I don't know. I think there's a lot to that. It's with anything, music and memories or places, you're always going to relive something.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I'll give you an example. Just driving by Pettit Park,
mm-hmm.
I relive a night every time, because I was with somebody that went to my elementary and my junior high school that was well out of my league, or, in the scheme of like how popular or whatever. This girl was having a horrible night with an ex-boyfriend, and I just happened to be the person that saw her in passing. We hung out that night and talked, and me, I can talk to people about issues, and I like kind of being the shoulder to listen.
Right.
And I just did that night, and I remember at the end of the night, like, she gave me a kiss, and it was a friendly thing, but it was one of those ones that was like, thanks for this 4 hours of just talking me off the ledge, or being able to listen and not be inside the circle. Because I'm sure she only had the circle to talk to, and they all knew him. You know what I mean? So I was on the outside. I wasn't part of that clique. So, but she, we were friends in junior high and friends in elementary school. Like, even when I saw her, she wasn't in school. She wasn't one of those people that she knew she was popular, but she never, and if I saw her, she'd be like, oh, hey, how you doing, Rob? I'm like, oh, hey, what's going on? Like, it wasn't like, that was what I really enjoyed about her. But those are the type of things that, like, I remember by places and or music. And music, obviously, there's a million more memories, because you could be anywhere and hear music, and I think that that it's a special thing. And thankfully no one can take that away. No one can take away that
That's
memory
true.
in that song, regardless of where you're at and regardless of who you're with. You know, I think it's one of those things where, you know, if you're with someone and you're married, you can hear a song and still go, you know, venture back for that 3 minutes and remember that old flame or remember that old thing, but still remember what you have in the present. And I think that that's important as well, where, and I think that if you're with somebody, mostly for a long period of time, you know, and I mean long, like 2, 3, 4 years, that there's, I'm still a song person. I'll make playlists and I'll give them to people, whether it's digitally or, you know, now you have to do it digitally because most people don't have a CD player in their car. But that's what I would do. I would make a playlist and I'd send it to somebody and say, these remind me of you, because I think that's still an important thing. Like, we just have to find a way to do it again, because everyone can't say how they feel verbally. Yeah. But you can find a song that says, this is exactly how I feel about you. And that's another great thing, that it's a bridge between maybe not being able to get your true feelings across, but being able to go to somebody and say, this song almost word for word is how I feel about you. And there's several songs like that I've heard where you, like I said, you almost think they wrote it for you.
Remember the days of dedications where like people would dedicate songs to you and stuff?
Oh yeah.
I had a song, only one song ever dedicated to me on the radio, and I won't ever forget that. Like
yeah. No, seriously. I would call in on Coast 103.
Did you really? I never did that. Never did that.
Yeah. I never heard the dedication, but I got through and I said the song and who it was for. But you know, that show here in California, it was on for like 4 or 5 hours every night.
Oh yeah, every night.
So you couldn't, you know, shit, when you're 15 and you got to go to sleep because you got to go to school in the morning. I was like, well, at least I did it. And if they're listening, they're going to hear it. So, you know, those are, dedications. Like, and again, like I said, mixtapes. I think that mixtape was just I actually have a cassette somewhere in a box that someone made for me that's still intact. And it's still,
I had a boyfriend that was a DJ, and he used to like to DJ like a whole cassette for me. And every time I got in my car, there was a new cassette. And I'm like, fuck yeah. We had another one. And it would be like the best music. He'd put on like the best, like stuff that we had heard at a club or stuff. It was so, I used to love those. I still have those. I haven't played them in 100 years, but I wonder if they'd still work. But man, was the music good. Just he'd get the right like little clips to put in between songs. It was, oh my God, I used to love those. Love those.
Yeah. And again, those are songs. And the best part about those is I guarantee you there's probably songs on those tapes that aren't digitally done.
Right.
Like you can't find those digitally.
I'm sure.
It's like, that's the best part. If you have old records and you have a record player, like
he had crates and crates of them.
Yeah. They were never pressed, or they were local, like mostly for like metal bands in the 80s. You know, they pressed records, but they never went to CD because they never got big enough to where the CD era started. So if you have them on wax, the only way to get it is to put it on a record player. So it's an interesting thing to, like I said, you know, you hear a song and it takes you back to and for me, sometimes it's just an era. Like I'll hear a song that's so 80s that I hated when we were young, because I was, you know, I listened to metal and that's all I listened to. You know, now I hear these songs and I was like, wow, these bands were good. Like I never listened to The Cure until like probably 5 years ago. But
really?
Then, yeah, because another friend of mine, Josh got me. He's like, hey, you got to listen to these bands. I'm like, super good. And then you listen to them now and you're like, these guys were really talented and like wrote amazing lyrics. So, but I didn't, I had blinders on at the time. So now I love like 80s stuff is great. And obviously it's our era. So it's, that always takes me back. What's scary is that now, I'm assuming K-Earth probably still exists.
They do.
But the last time I listened to K-Earth 101, the oldies station turned into an 80s station.
It did.
So, but they were still pulling it off like they were like oldies, or not oldies per se, but that generation is us listening to that station. So I found that to be kind of funny because I remember hearing, K-Earth 101 when it was like 50s music.
Yes. I couldn't believe that the music switched. And then when I was switching channels, I was like, what the hell? It's not my parents' music anymore.
It's us.
Oh my God, we're the oldies now. When the hell did this happen? And I also remember when I was 30, my friend got a Mercedes and he came to show me at work, and I'm an asshole with this guy. We always talk shit. And he got a black Mercedes. So I went and got in it. And I'm like, when did you get a Jewish woman's car? Like being an asshole, right? And he's like, would you just shut up and get in the car? Because we were too young to have a car like that at the time, or at least I thought. And then, and then when he turned the car on, the Wave came on. Now, back in the day, the Wave was dentist music, like music you heard in an elevator or at a dentist's office. And here it was, our songs. And I'm like, oh, you listened to the Wave? I made fun of him like 2 or 3, 4 or 5 times, I don't know, about different things. He made me get out of the car and walk back because he was coming to show me his car, and I just kept screwing with him that day. And it took me about 10 years before I was at work listening to The Wave, which was the dentist music, and it was playing songs that I really liked, and I was like, oh my God, I'm starting to rock out to The Wave. I'm gonna have to call and apologize for being an asshole in a Mercedes. And I did, and of course, I never heard the end of that again. But it was kind of funny because even the radio station reminded me of certain things that I threw at him, which was a lot of fun. But
isn't that awesome though? I love that. It's such a great thing for us to be able to hear something that obviously was nothing like we listened to when we were younger. And now that oldie station is turned into the music that we listen to because we're getting older.
Yes.
So
shut up. No.
No. What the hell? What's really weird though is I'm assuming that there's really no oldie stations anymore. And I think that's kind of a drag, because I think that music shouldn't die out. I think 50s and 60s music.
Well, now with every other type of way you could listen to music, it's not going to die out. You could go to, you can
stream everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure if you go to Spotify
you go to
or
YouTube,
Apple Music,
Spotify, all of those, and pull it up.
And you can listen to us there as well.
That's right. We're getting to the end of the show. We should wrap this up.
I know. Look at this. We're like well over an hour. Did you like that? That's called a segue. Did you like that?
Yes, it was. And I also liked that we actually wanted to talk through our whole podcast today. We're even a little late. Because last week, man, I was like, can we get off of this podcast?
You had a fucking parachute on. You were looking to jump out of the airplane.
I was. I'm not going to lie. That was just too much for me. I was aggravated. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, you know me. I'm all up for controversy. So I know that it's harder for you. But, and this was our 50th episode. This is 50.
Yes.
50.
Who would have thought when we were sitting in Denny's talking about starting a podcast that we would get to number 50? Like, who knew?
Man, I would love to tell you that I actually thought that would happen, but I can't.
I didn't. I didn't even have the thought.
I knew we would get it off the ground, and I knew that we could probably pump out around 10 or 20. like knowing we could, because we can't shut the fuck up sometimes, So
Sometimes.
I thought 20. Yeah, we should be able to get to 20. And if we make it to 20, like, man, we did pretty good. And then I remember we started looking about statistics and I was like, shit, most people quit at 7. I was like,
yeah.
If we can get past that, I'm like 50. It's like, and obviously, we need help from the listeners out there to keep, listening and pressing on and, hopefully not getting overly offended by, some of the controversial stuff that we talk about or will. I'm hoping that the people who listen to this understand that everyone has different opinions because this is an opinion show. So don't get it twisted. You can see that was a segue too. I even got the pop line out way before the end of it.
You did.
You want to tell these people where they can hear us?
You could hear us on Spotify, Apple, Google, Amazon, iHeartRadio, anywhere where you listen to your podcasts. And you could reach us on social media. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Yep. Reach out to us. Let us know what you think, what you'd like to hear from us, if there's any topics you'd like. I love all the countries that are out there listening to us. Nepal and Guam and
France.
We got France. Like all these we have like 23, 24 different countries now. Yep. And I just love that you guys are listening to us. So thank you. And please continue. Follow us, share us, and come back next week because we'll be here.
That's it. Spread the word. And we got Alaska finally. So
Alaska.
I thought that was kind of cool. We still got a couple of states here in the union, but we're pushing to get all of them. I know we need Hawaii. We need Louisiana, Alabama, Maine,
Rhode Island,
Utah, Rhode Island. I think Montana. No, Wyoming, and Utah. I have a friend in Utah. I'm gonna have to press him. He needs to listen to us. He's an old wrestler friend of mine, but
nice.
I like your little view right now. If people could actually see you, which I can barely see you because you're in the dark right now. That's
I didn't turn on a light because it was light when we started this, but now it's dark. So
that's good. I like that.
Yeah.
So we'll be here in a week. Thanks for listening to our 50th episode, and our goal is to give you another 50 of enlightening you on opinions because we all got them. And please feel free. We want guests on here, so get in touch with us. Mostly if you're personal friends with us and you listen to the show, we want to have people on because we want people with different views as well. So not quite arguing, but definitely trying to meet in the middle. So
yes,
let's do it. Tina, as always, it's a pleasure. And, I'm going to go listen to some music now while I pet my dog. And that is also not a metaphor for anything else. I'm actually going to pet my dog.
Go pet your dog in any way you want to.
That's right. As long as I'm not, choking the chicken, everything will be fine. All right, darling. We'll see you in a week. Thanks, everybody. We'll be back for episode 51. Bye, teeners.
Good night.
Bye.